Hi everyone, and welcome to Venice for another quick tutorial video on traffic pattern. Today's objective is going to know the traffic pattern, its usefulness, and practice it. For that, we'll see the different legs forming the pattern, the aim of each one, and how to execute them. As you can see on the graph, there are 5 different legs that will interest us. To better understand their names, a quick reminder that we'll always try to take off and land facing the wind. We then have our first leg, the upwind leg. This is basically the aircraft after having taken off and maintaining the runway centerline while climbing. When the aircraft is high enough and the pilot ready, a 90-degree turn is performed to start the crosswind leg. This leg's aim is to get some distance between the runway and the following leg. We then have the second 90-degree turn to end up parallel to the runway in the same direction of the wind. This is the downwind leg. At the end of this leg, we'll perform a 90-degree turn, setting our aircraft on the base leg. The aim here is to get close and intercept the runway centerline. Once we have performed the last 90-degree turn to intercept the runway centerline, we're on the last leg of the traffic pattern. This is the final. On this graph, we've seen only left-hand turns. It's called a left-hand circuit. The pilot usually sits on the left. This direction of turn will keep most of the point of interest on his side, therefore help him see better. For this reason, left-hand circuit pattern is preferable, but right-hand circuit are also used. Once we've taken off, our aircraft is configured for the climb. Flaps, lights, pumps. We'll maintain this configuration to at least 300 feet above aerodrome level. Once this height is achieved, we'll change configuration from takeoff to a normal climb. So, takeoff lights off, fuel pumps off, and flaps up. Once the configuration changed, the aircraft stabilized, we'll perform a 90-degree turn to join the crosswind leg. Remember, we're still climbing, we therefore need to keep an eye on our speed and not exceed 20 degrees of bank to avoid deteriorating our climb rate. While still climbing at full throttle, we should be approaching our level of height of 1000 feet above the aerodrome. At this height, reduce power to maintain holding speed. Depending on the wind's direction and strength, the aircraft will drift away from the intended route. Direct it by pointing the nose of your aircraft a few degrees towards the wind. Once you have enough distance between the runway and your aircraft, initiate the second 90-degree turn in order to fly the downwind leg. Once established on the downwind leg, don't forget to take into account the wind's effect on your course, and counter it as we've seen before. The downwind leg is used to prepare for landing. We'll turn the landing lights on, the fuel pump on, and set our approach flaps. There, our aircraft is nearly ready for landing. Last item will be the landing flaps to be set on final. Once past upping the runway's threshold, either count 1 minute or wait for a 45 degrees angle with the threshold. Arriving at a turning point, consider a 30 degrees bank for your 90 degrees turn into base leg. Once on base leg, keep the runway in sight. Don't forget to counter the wind's effect to stay perpendicular to the runway. With the runway in sight, start to visualize the glide slope. While maintaining your speed, reduce power to start your descent when you think you are on the glide slope. At the same time, keep in mind your aim to intercept the runway centerline. Anticipate your turn to avoid overshooting. These two latter points are tricky to get right, but practice makes perfect. Once on the runway centerline, set your flaps settings to landing and slow down to your final approach speed. Once stable on the 3-axis, the runway centerline, the glide slope, and the final approach speed, have your landing checklist done and keep your aircraft stable all the way down to the runway. For a more detailed explanation on landing the aircraft, have a look at our previous video. So, to conclude our quick video on the traffic pattern, we'll keep in mind a few things. First, we've seen the traffic pattern itself, with the different legs: upwind, crosswind, downwind, base leg, and final. Second, this pattern is usually used for landing and flare training, but it can also be used to see the wind's effect on the trajectory of the aircraft and how to counter it. Finally, the downwind leg is the perfect time to prepare the aircraft, so that there is practically nothing to do on final. Also, don't forget to check our video on landing if you've missed it. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon.